seem like too much love is never enough. There you go. Sing out another road, yeah. This one has been need of love. Yeah. Say, Lord, say, Lord, I never wanted to write these words down for you with the pages of phrases of all the things I never do. Hell, so blow out of the candle, and I'll put you to bed. Since you can't say to me now, I don't know you more. There's just one thing left you to say. Say, Lord, heaven, yeah. Say, Lord, heaven, All right, thank you.
The most human trait is to want.
So, got news this morning that a friend of mine, died. Not sure what happened. Good morning, Warren. Good morning, Josephine. Good morning, Julie. A friend of mine died, and not sure what happened. Not gonna reveal his name, but somebody that you grew up with, never forget him. Somebody that like all of us, struggle with life. So many friends that I have that have lost sons and daughters, and it's always painful, losing a friend, losing somebody close to us, And we see it happen, you know, in our football leagues. It was always, every year it seems like there's somebody that ends up, you know, it ends up happening to. Thanks, Carl. I appreciate it, brother. You know, it's, hey, brother, teach them in the city. Somebody, it seems like every year, one or two a year, somebody, one of his students that he knew. You know, you hear of friends that, you know, they go down that dark path and they commit suicide, you know, or, you know, they drink themselves to death, or they're using some type of drug and killing themselves. Good morning, Dan. How you doing? And, you know, it's just so tragic and sad, unnecessary. You know, and I think people ask me, you know, Pete, why do you do what you do? You know, why do you try to help so many people? And it doesn't matter that I'm trying to help so many people. It's just that you're trying to help one person. You know, you're trying to help one person. Good morning, Carolyn. Good morning, Pamela. Thank you, Julianne. I appreciate it. You're trying to help and be there in whatever way one person needs. You know, trying to make them feel like they are worth something. You know, and if you don't understand what depression and suicidal thoughts are, that's a blessing. I'm glad you've never been through it. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Cheryl. Good morning, Jason. Great to see you, Jason. Awesome. If you don't know what mental illness is, if you don't know what anxiety is, if you don't know what depression is, or suicidal thoughts, if you've never dealt with it, if you've never known anybody that has dealt with it or is dealing with it, it's not, it's crippling. It's consuming. You can't crawl out from under it. And, you know, the door to get out of it is right there. And we can do it. Good morning, John. Great to see you, brother. Good morning, Brenda. Good morning, Don. The door is right there to be able to get out of it. But it may as well be 1,000,000 miles away. It may as well be on the moon, because you just don't know how to get to that door. You know, in all my life, you know, I'll say I've been blessed and I've had the gifts to have been around people who were very sad. You know, even as a kid, you know, being around people that were extremely sad. And it was a gift to be around, good morning, Patty, and it's a gift to be around people that have taken their own lives and that struggled with mental illness and that suffered from depression and anxiety. It's a gift, because when you slow down and you listen to them and you figure out what it is that they need, and they don't want to be fixed. I mean, there's a big part of them that does want to be fixed, but they don't know what the answers are. They don't know how to even get to that point. Good morning, Nicole. And but at the same turn, they don't want to be fixed. They don't want to seem desperate. They don't want to seem weak. So they struggle and suffer with it on their own, because they're not going to reach out to anybody. They're going to do everything that they can to try to fix it on their own. But they're suffering and struggling. And like I said, they don't know that door, that escape is literally right there. They just got to move. They just got to move the blanket, they got to move the leaves, and then they look and they see it. I'm sorry, David, that sucks. I'm so sorry, bud. You know, so I call it a blessing because, and then the different women that I've dated and the different family members that I've had and, you know, the friends that I've had that have struggled with this, those are all gifts because it allows me to understand what it is that people are going through. Now, if we all struggled with, you know, thinking of taking our lives at some point, yeah, I mean, we've all had those thoughts fleeting going through our minds, some level or degree. But most of us, it's never really a serious entertainment. You're just kind of thinking that maybe it's going to happen, you know, or maybe things would be easier that way. But it's never really this crippling, debilitating, these thoughts that just consume you. And there's a lot of good people that are struggling right now. And that are always struggling. You know, we heard that there are 10 times as many people calling into crisis services to deal, you know, with suicidal thoughts and mental illness and struggling and all different types of things. And, you know, that's really the tragedy of all of this, you know, our kids and what's happening to them and how they're being crushed. Our elderly, us, you know, parents, you know, 30s, 40s, 20s, co-workers. So when someone out there in the world has something nasty to say to you about whatever it is, that in a bigoted, prejudiced, and a discriminatory way, don't let that sink in. I don't care who it is. Know that that person is just an angry person that is very, very selfish and doesn't understand what it is that you're going through, doesn't even care what you're going through. All they care about is their narrow view of what the world is. That's all they care about, is that small, narrow view of what they've got. And they don't even appreciate or respect what it is that they're saying to you and how that can affect you because of what you may be going through. And I know people that have lost people. Some of you that are on here right now. And, you know, when somebody in your life, you know, takes their life, good morning, Courtney, it hurts. You know, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of questioning, there's a lot of doubt. What could you have done to have been there for that person more than what you were? And all we can do as individuals is to be there for those people in our lives in all the best ways that we can. Just slowing down and listening, you know, being present, being aware, laughing, smiling, joking, you know, not making everything serious, because I think what the natural predisposition is when we have somebody in our life that is struggling with mental illness or struggling with suicidal thoughts or anxiety or depression is that we want to fix them and we want to help them. Good morning, Melissa. Great to see you. Hey, Mike, I miss you. I've been thinking about you and Michelle a lot. We got to get together. But that's not what they want, and that's not what they need. Because to them, they're very proud. And they don't want, thank you, Melissa, I appreciate it, hon. They don't want to be looked at as weak. They don't want to be looked at as having troubles or struggles. And it gets overwhelming and just self-prophesizing. Like if we keep talking to somebody that is struggling with that and saying, are you okay? Are you okay? Do you need anything? It pushes them down. Lifting them up and treating them as though they're normal, Lillian, because they are. They're normal, but they're just somebody that's struggling, is the best way to approach it. You know, not being overwhelming, but being there every day, a little bit in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. Those are the times when people are struggling with suicidal thoughts, that those are, you know, the mornings are the worst, and then the evenings when you're going to bed, those are the worst times. You know, people struggling with those things, they dread those times of day. They dread them. So us just sending out a little text or picking up the phone and calling and sharing something just light is so important. It's so meaningful and impactful. And just letting that person know simply, you know, what you've done for them reminds them of what their worth is in life. And you're not like, oh, you're the best. No, you just say, hey, remember that one time? Man, I really love that. I think about that, you know. And I really respect that you did this. You know, you mean a lot to me. And just showing them, giving them a connection, because when you are in that state of mind where you're ready to end it, you forget everybody. Good morning, Eric. Great to see you, brother. You forget that there are people that are going to be left behind. And because you're so self-absorbed and immersed and swallowed up by that pain and that anxiety and that depression that you have, whatever it is, guilt, that you just completely disconnect from everybody else and everything else. You just think that nobody else is, it's not going to matter. It's not, nobody's going to care. If you're gone, it's going to be better if you're gone. You're not going to be a burden to anybody. And to those of us that have lost somebody to suicide, the most important thing to remember, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. We can only do what we can do. We can only be aware and present so much. Those feelings of guilt are going to sink in, and we're going to say, what could we have done? If I would have only picked up the phone and called, if I would have only been there a little bit more, if I would have only said a little bit more of a kind word, if I would have only listened, been there, stopped over the house, said that joke. And you can't think of it in terms like that. You really can't. Good morning, Amy. Good morning, Mike. Good to see you guys. Happy New Year. You can't think of it in terms like that. All you can do is live that best life that you can each and every day, being aware of what your friends are struggling with and taking that little bit of extra time to be there for them. Good morning, Amanda. Great to see you, hon. But that person taking their own life is not your responsibility. It's not. You don't have any burden to have on you. Don't let those thoughts creep in, because those are dangerous thoughts. Because those then can transition into where you slide down to a place that isn't healthy. And when you keep beating yourself up over and over and over and over again about it, that you could or should have done something, it becomes inescapable. And then now you're in the position that whoever it was your friend was that committed suicide. And I see that happen all too often. It's never your fault. And the reason it's not your fault, good morning Carrie, good morning Jackie, the reason it's not your fault is because either you didn't know how to handle the situation, you weren't equipped to deal with it, or maybe you tried, but it wasn't exactly the way that it needed, but that's still not your fault. You tried. And why I say it's a blessing in my life and a gift to have been surrounded by people that were struggling with mental illness, crippling depression, clinical depression, people who have committed suicide, is because it has given me a level of understanding and connection to it that I can be there for the people that come into my life in ways that I can be for them. You know, and the families struggle with it. You know, it's so painful when somebody ends their lives because they're always trying to figure out what they could have done more. You know, what more could they have done? What better could they have done? And you just have to come to terms and resolution with yourself and acceptance and forgiveness with yourself that you did what you could. And just like me, that suicide is a gift to you, because then you get to take that opportunity and figure out how to be there for that person in your life that may be struggling with the same thing, or maybe right at the beginning stages of it. For you to evaluate all the emotions, all the feelings that you had, all the sensations that you had associated with it before that person did what they did. And then as a result of it, you know, identify those feelings and emotions that you have, and then use those as a, you know, a catalyst, an impetus, a motivator to educate yourself on how you can help those people in your life that you know are struggling. And this morning, you know, I found out about it, and it hits you like, you know, it just hits you. And then you see the face of that person and everything that you've shared with them. And, you know, and you can't help but smile. But then, of course, there's the associated, you know, thinking about them and going through all the pain and struggles that they were. And this person, seeing them come on the lives here, I mean, just, you know, I'm not going to say yesterday, I don't know when the last time I saw them on a live, but it was definitely last week I saw them. You know, and wondering and knowing how these lives help so many people, and wondering to myself how much these lives helped him. And it's just trying to be responsible with that. Just trying to be there for people in every way that I can be. You know, but this individual, I remember a lot of respect for him. You went to school with him, and you played football with him. And you remember, you know, you always had to put the tape on the helmet so the coaches would remember your names. And I would always see his name, and, you know, he played running back, and he played, you know, secondary on defense, and was just, you know, tenacious, and he had a big heart, and was one of those very gifted players that, you know, I highly regarded. And as a person too, just somebody that, Gary, what's going on? Somebody that, put a lot into what he had and made mistakes. Like we all make mistakes. Every single one of us makes mistakes. Every one of us makes mistakes. And it's like I always say, it starts here. And if we are not healthy here, then, and happy here and forgiving here, then to ourselves and being good to ourselves, then we're not going to be in a position where we can be aware and present with the people in our lives, to have those conversations with them, to say, hey, how are you doing? To feel comfortable to give them a hug. Tell them you love them. Who cares? I don't say I love you. Why not? It feels amazing to say I love you to somebody. Pete, good morning, brother. Sorry, man. Sorry, Pete. Tough day. Feels awesome to say you love somebody. It feels awesome for somebody to tell you that they love you. Being good to yourself opens that up. Not feeling like you have to be sad and melancholy and downtrodden starts to open that up. And then you can be that person that is there for yourself and then able to be there for others. Losing somebody is tough, and especially when it was avoidable. But we can't blame ourselves. We just can't. And we need to use it and apply it to our life as a lesson and as a gift, so that we can be there for others, because there are a lot of people struggling. A lot of people struggling, especially now. And we forget that because, with me and our groups, we have so much happiness and we have so much joy and togetherness and family and community and camaraderie. We have that. And hopefully you have somebody in your family, in your circle, where you're able to have that sense of belonging and that sense of worth, that sense of self-worth. Good morning, Jessica. Great to see you, hon. And if you don't, people always ask me, Pete, how do you get to the point where you can value yourself and you can have that community and network of friends? You start by being good here. Oh, the house is, I'm a failure. I don't, my job, my relationship, I can't stand being with this person. My kids are driving me crazy. Sound familiar? Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate you too, hon. Thank you for everything. You're welcome. And you can either continue thinking like that and just creating that misery, or you can ask yourself, why do I feel like this? Okay. Why do I feel like my kids are a nightmare? Maybe they are. Maybe they are. But what was my role? Because it's our role. What did we do to create that? What did you contribute to help create the relationship that you have? Put yourself in the job. It's all of our creation. And people will say to me, when I know people aren't ready for it, what will people say? Good morning, Joe. Great to see you, brother. Good morning, Melissa. What will people say to me? I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to do it. It's been like this forever. You know all the questions. And so many of the people here right now on this page, if you guys don't think you can do it, you can. Because so many of the people right now that are here have done that. They, in the last couple of weeks, in the last couple of months, in the last half a year, where they were struggling with relationship, with job, with family, with kids, with their home, with finances, whatever it was, they started to redirect their thinking and to stop victimizing themselves and playing the victim or allowing anybody else to victimize themselves. And they said, and rather than it being, good morning, Mark, great to see you, and rather than it being, I'm going to force this to happen, I'm going to make this happen, I'm going to commit to it, which is important, but it's got to be organic and natural and free-flowing. And the way that happens is by wanting it, just wanting it. Not wanting it so bad that you're going to do everything that you're going to do to make it happen. It's just, I'm in a relationship with somebody, I don't see eye to eye with that person, and I'm going to figure it out. Is this going to be something that I can work on? Can I work on some of the things for myself? Can there be common ground? And I cannot tell you how many people in these groups, men and women, have said to me, Pete, you know, and then the smiles on the face, and they've come together, and how much healthier it is for their children and themselves to then have created that just by committing to it, redirecting their thoughts from all that negativity and realizing and recognizing what their role and responsibility in it was. And when you become that person, you become more joyous. You become more fulfilled. Life is more at peace. It's more balanced. Now you have a partner. Now you can focus in on those nightmare kids. And even if you don't have somebody, good morning, Paul. Great to see you, brother. I miss you, man. I miss you, Paul. Now even if you don't have somebody, you're in a position to then be a friend to yourself, to be good to yourself. So that then you can be a good friend. And then what happens is you end up in one of the groups. The simplest way is taking a look at somebody in some of the groups. Do you know how many people just didn't know one another before? They didn't. Take a look at your own life. Take a look at a cousin that maybe you connected with before, but you don't anymore. Take a look at a friend that you've had that you were close to, but you don't talk to that much anymore. And reach out to them. And you don't have to have, dozens of friends. It can be that 1, 2, 3. That's it. And now you're there for them. Yeah, absolutely. You're right, Jessica. Absolutely. And then you can't, and Jessica's a perfect example. Perfect example. Jessica gathered herself up with her husband, with herself, and she kept, wanting to go at the locomotive, standing there. And she said, nah. She said, you know what? It's a lot easier to take this bolt off here. It's a lot easier to take this wheel off over here. And she did that, and she gave that to herself. And look at what the result was. The gift that she gave herself, her family, her mother. Just by slowing herself down and redirecting it. It is transformative. It is transcendent. It is a personal revolution that occurs when you start to see the world in a way that is, you're here and you go, what am I doing that is resulting in the consistent results that I'm getting? For me, it was stop being a dick on the football field. You know, I was a nice person off the football field, off the volleyball court, but it was stop being a dick. Like, be there for friends. Laugh, smile, simply. Don't have heaviness. You know, don't, let that ego go. And once I started to do that, it was amazing. The joy that I was able to feel, and the smile and the happiness and the exuberance. And then if you're not in a relationship, what ends up happening is you start creating friends where all of a sudden you're this upbeat, positive person, and all of a sudden people just start gravitating towards you. It's magnetic. And then maybe you meet somebody. Good morning, Jim, great to see you. Maybe you meet somebody because you start to be a little better to yourself, because then you become better to others. You're more receptive. I always say, what do they always say, that cliche? You always find somebody when you're not looking. You know how I feel about cliches. I hate them. But it's not that you find somebody when you're not looking. You find somebody when you have started to heal yourself and become better for yourself and better to yourself. And the reason is because people pick up on energies, right? They pick up on what your thoughts are. If you're a little chippy, right? Or, if you're a little bit, they feel that that energy, it just pours out of us in subtle ways that we don't even realize. So starting to be good to yourself opens that door up to then be good to friends. Have those friends, and it opens up circles where you may meet somebody that you do connect with. And maybe they're not of the opposite sex, and maybe they're not the perfect fit for you, but you start to learn how to be in a relationship with somebody. In those little ways, to come back from being isolated and alone and truly being a part of somebody else's life, something else. And if you are in a relationship, you're going to see as that relationship start to get stronger and repair itself. And rather than, what is it? Screw this person. I'm not going to say anything to them. I'm not going to text anything to them. I'm not going to touch them. Screw them. And then that goes for days and weeks and months. When all you had to do was reach out to that person, hold their hand, put your arms around them, kiss them, take them from behind, not that way. Stop. But you come up and you give them, you hug them, and you kiss them, you tell them that you love them, and you tell them how much they mean to you. And then you reach out and you start texting that person, and then maybe the texts get a little bit more intimate and passionate and romantic, and now what you thought was irretrievable, what you thought was gone, is being built one little piece at a time. And I know it can happen because I've done it. I know it can happen because other people have done it. People on this page have done it. And then you take a look at those kids and you go, what can we do better for our kids? Well, first, you're showing them love. You're showing them respect and admiration and affection and understanding and the ability to work together as opposed to throw it out and abandon it. You've already started to show them that. Good morning, Beth. Great to see you, hon. You've already begun to show them that. And that is going to have an immeasurable effect. What we forget is how we are in our relationship if it ends up being bad and we're just, we have all of this angst and this anger and this spite in us, that we forget how the people around us are feeling about that. We forget how it affects our kids because we're so immersed and absorbed in it. And by transforming that and being good to yourself and then being good to your partner in those little ways and getting it back, you're showing them that people don't have to throw in the towel. You're showing them how they can rise up, how they can repair and remedy and forgive. Truly forgive. And then you could start working on them being punks. Those are my favorite moments. Closer. Be good to yourselves. And by being good to yourselves, you're going to be good to others. You know, keep that smile on your face and keep that smile in your heart. And know that other people are always, there's always going to be those moments of sadness. There's always going to be. You don't have to feel like you failed. You know, I say this all the time. You know, if you've been happy, but all of a sudden something, you know, hammers you, and you're like, you didn't fail. That's human. You know, or if you said something off-putting or off-color, or you interacted with somebody in a bad way, or you went back to, you know, some vice that you had. You didn't fall off the mountain. You slipped off the path. You didn't forget everything that you've acquired and all the knowledge. You know, it didn't go away. It's all still there. And you go, I made a mistake. That's it. I made a mistake. And the most beautiful thing is having people in your life that realize that. Me having people in my life, through my whole life, that unconditionally, unapologetically accepted me. And they would say, you know, maybe think about this. I love you. Absolutely love you. You know, but this judgment free. You know, you don't feel like you're being criticized and constantly and incessantly. They're just like, come here, man, give me a hug. What were you thinking? I love you. That's hilarious. What were you thinking? And it's so special to be that person that is that way with others in your life. As long as those people aren't at a point where they're going to be toxic, because we can't have those people in our lives. You know, sometimes you have to cut the ties with somebody that is so far gone, and you have to hand that off to somebody else that's going to be able to do that. But to be there for as many other people, and sometimes even those toxic people, seeing how you interact with them and how you're responding to them, that even starts to stick and starts to change them, and they start to go, whoa, maybe I don't have to be the way that I am. Morgan, great to see you. Jeff, what's up? You know, a rough time for so many, a rough year. And you guys have heard me talk about, you know, death and suicide a lot. And, you know, you hear me talking about being good to one another, and there's a reason. And I had a plan on talking about a lot of other things this morning. But I got this news, and remember that in a moment, just by caring and being human and picking up that phone, there's no way we can avoid it all. There's no way. And there's no way we can know it all. But just being aware of what our friends and being connected into that, we can put our arms around so many. You know, as sad as this one is for so many, and it's going to hit very, very, very hard, we are still here. The living are still here. And we have to live life in every way that we can, being there for one another and using this as a gift to understand how we can do more and how we can be better. So one of the things that I always hate, right, when you're watching the news, you know, what was that one song that tell you about the the fire with a, you know, gleam in her eye or whatever it was? I think it was a Don Henley song. But I always hated that you could tell the most tragic stories, but then that newscaster would just flip that switch and be completely emotionally detached from it. So there are a lot of things that need to be covered that I will cover. I'll come back on a little bit later with events that are happening and what we've got going on, what's transpiring in the world and what we've got going on with DC. But, you know, right now, it's not the right time. You know, right now it's, you know, about the memory of not just who I've lost, but who we've all lost. And to take a look at those other people in our lives that may be struggling in the same way. And if you are one of those people, do not hesitate to reach out. Do not hesitate to call. It's not weakness, it's strength. You don't have to handle it yourself. You don't have to handle it yourself. Believe. Good morning, Tim. Great to see you, brother. Don't believe for a second that you are alone. Don't believe for a second that there aren't people out there that care about you. No matter how alone or isolated you feel, don't think that way. And be there and be good. Be aware and present to those others in your life that may be struggling, and that you are their gift to help. Love you guys very much. I'll see you in just a little bit. Have a great morning, all right, guys?